investors is Christoph from Point Nine Ventures. Christoph actually specifically focuses on investing on this thesis, the SaaS-enabled marketplace. And that I see continuously being a big opportunity in 2021. So that's number one. Number two, services plus SaaS. What does this mean? This means having software that's, a point of a system of record or a workflow, et cetera. But more importantly, you bundle in your services, your professional services to the offering that you have. Why is this powerful? Okay, some people be like, if it's not pure software, then it's pure business. Well, when you have these companies that, like one of my coaches, ClickFunnels, they do 160 million a year. These are all public numbers they've shared themselves. And the way they've designed it is they look at SaaS as success as a service. How do I make sure my customer solves the problem? Our tool is one component. Understanding how to deploy the tool, helping them configure it, giving them the education around that tool is a big, big opportunity. So that's number two. Layla from Alan, alan.com, ALAN.com. Some of my coaching clients went from 0 MRR to 1.4 million a month in MRR in about 9 months. The way she did it is not only a partner strategy, which I teach, which is very powerful, but the second thing is by kind of looking at her market and saying, if we want, she works with gym owners, we want to help gym owners increase the sales volume, sales calls that they produce, and that's what Alan does. It's essentially an automated sales chat system. Then we probably need to help our partners that sell the software teach their customers how to be more successful in business. The more successful in business, the more they'll use our product, the more revenue we make, because their revenue is based off of a pricing axis. Their value metric is based on their booking. So the more they grow, the more money they make. And so they've really bundled in not only subscription to the software, but also the services and the training to make sure that the customers are successful. Again, that whole methodology of SaaS equals success as a service. And then the one that I actually got from Nathan Laka is Centro. Centro is 142 million a year marketing technology company. They have that people pay subscription for, but their revenues at 142 million is 50-50, 50% monthly reoccurring for the technology and 50% for the services and the done for you components. And it just allows a lot more founders to bootstrap their way into 8 figures. And I think it's a beautiful model. And for the ones that don't want to raise a ton of venture capital, it helps you increase your average order value, increases your ability to retain customers because they're more successful with your product. It's something I think we're going to continue to see as a big trend. Number 3, I've got 4. Number 3, IoT plus SaaS. This is one of my favorites. One of the trends in the world is kind of miniaturization and really just having more physical devices around us, right? So a lot of us have like Alexa at home or Google Home or Apple's got their HomePod. But this idea of figuring out this electronic component that you could insert into the customer success stack, right? Like whatever your customer does, if you could add a monitoring component and then that hardware as either on a monthly fee or a leasing program, or they could pay a one-time charge, but really offer what that component does as a monitoring tool as the subscription. So you kind of build in lock-in. I'll give you a few examples. Peter and Ben, both clients I coach. Peter's in the UK, he's got Fleet Check. Ben is in GPS, he's in Canada. They both have fleet management SaaS companies, and they sell their hardware that goes into the vehicles, and that hardware feeds all the data over the wire to their SaaS product, right? It's a pretty straightforward one. Another one of my clients, Mark at DPL. DPL has a hardware SaaS solution for ATM machines, so automatic teller machines, where maybe those devices you go and get money out of, that they sell to not only provide monitoring of cash levels in the ATM machine, but also security and theft prevention and tracking and any kind of analytics and data. And customers pay for the hardware and they pay for the subscription. The reason why this is so powerful, if you have kind of a solution set that would be open to IoT is to build a device in today's world. Literally, you can just hire a company, tell them what the specs are. They grab all these open source components, build the configuration. It might cost you 25 grand to build the initial version, but then you can sell these ongoing. So for example, Sensa Networks, they have a waste management IoT product where they monitor levels of waste. It's about $900 to build their hardware. And 60% of the customers buy it straight out for $2,400 as a one time, and then 40% decide to rent it. But then they charge $34 per location for the reporting and the analytics to monitor, right? So big trend, I think, as the cost of hardware and building hardware comes down, as the amount of 5G and IoT kind of expands, I think we're going to see a whole lot more of this. I mean, if you think about it, Apple phones starting to do the same thing. So those are called rundles, where they bundle a bunch of services and reoccurring subscription bundles. But I mean, all of a sudden now Apple is like, hey, you don't have to buy the phone. You can just get the phone and pay us a subscription. So I think we're going to see more and more and more of this kind of hardware subscription and software solution in the market. Number 4 is the one that's near and dear to my heart, is a percent of GMV, gross merchandise value. So, and subscription. So what this means is, I'll give you a really quick example. One of my clients, Jonathan at Service Autopilot. So Autopilot essentially is a SaaS product for local service companies that are selling anybody that's got a truck that goes to somebody's house. That was their customer. So home care, lawn care, pool maintenance, etc. If you have to manage a fleet of trucks that go to somebody's house and you want to manage invoicing and routing and all that stuff, that's what Service Autopilot did. Now, Service Autopilot gets paid on a subscription basis, and it's all on their website. But the other part of their business model was ensuring the transactions went through their payment gateway. Why is that interesting? Because all of a sudden now, that transactional volume, the percent of gross merchandise, those invoices that are getting paid through their platform, has value in the market and value in the market. Credit card companies look at that reoccurring transaction because they know the percentages and what's that worth to these big payment gateways. All of a sudden now you have the SaaS revenue that really develops the business, and then you grow this percent of GMV that allows you to get this amplifier to evaluation, right? Russell at ClickFunnels, one of my other coaching clients, ClickFunnels this brilliantly, where a lot of the things that people are selling are using their payment gateway. Now they've partnered with Stripe to do it, but they get a piece of the transaction revenue from Stripe as a partner. One of my other clients, Kyle at Proposify. Proposify is one of the world's top proposal tools in the world, so proposal software. And a lot of people, because it's inherent, it's like I send you a proposal and you pay it. They are now building in that infrastructure so that all the payments and the transactions go through their gateway, so they can get a percent of that gross merchandise value, plus still continue to get the subscription revenue. So those are the 4 big trends in the market. I'm just curious, which one are you most excited about? Enabled marketplace? Leave your answer below in the chat. Is it 2 services plus SaaS, or 4 of GMV plus SaaS? If you're interested, you have any questions, coaching, etc., looking to get to the next level, you can go to Dan Martell, 2lsmartell.com/call and book in a call with one of my scale specialists to see if I can help. That being said, I want to turn this over to you and see if you have any questions. Thanks so much. Services plus SaaS marketplaces, Alex. Awesome. So Liam, I don't know if you're going to drive the Q&A, but I would love to answer some questions. Alan, Darko, Zan, Ava, Igor, Jaka, Jost, Yost, Giovanna, Kinga, Cresso, Maja, Martin, Otto, Simon. How you guys all do? Oh, all good, Liam. I figured as much. You know, Alex knows that I can fill space and air. I love getting to know everybody. So I'm just going through the chat here. SaaS enabled marketplace as Matic. I love that. And I'm really excited to be fantastic. Thanks for asking. Yeah, no, I just about healthcare with SaaS solutions. There's a few trends in healthcare. One of the biggest ones I know in the US, Darko, I can't speak to, you know, depending on the part of the world you're in. Clients, Royal J, they have a SaaS platform for doctors and really medical systems in Canada, where I spend most of my time. I also spend half my time in the US in San Diego. So I split, but in Canada, we have medical coverage, part of the government. But in the US, they're going to this new kind of like process to incentivize doctors to reduce the amount of incidents. There's a name for it. I think it's called value-based insurance or something like that. But essentially, the trend is that there's software companies like one of my clients at Royal J, where they, Jared, he sells the SaaS solution to medical systems like these bigger networks of hospitals. And then what it does is it analyzes all of the doctors and their patients and the issues. There's Liam, nice to see you. And then based on the data, it uses an incentivization strategy to find out which doctors are actually better at preventative, least amount of infections, the least amount of repeat visits, the least amount of future issues. And they have enough data, and it's all SaaS based, to be able to actually compensate the doctors for being a better doctor, which I think is an incredible trend, right? Like when all of a sudden, if I know, hey, getting somebody to exercise is probably a really good strategy versus giving them a pill, and now I'm going to get rewarded for that because there's visibility into the long-term aspect, and it's not how fast I can get through a bunch of patients. That's a trend that I think I'm excited to see.
Oh man, I made it. I'm so sorry that took me forever.
I was in the same spot earlier, so I
know. Now I feel your pain. I feel your pain. I just punched my MacBook and it fixed everything. So that was a good solution, like a Super Nintendo. I wanted to ask you about services plus SaaS, because I've been a huge fan of this ever since I worked for a SaaS company that basically was a professional services company masking as a SaaS product, and I was blown away by how much easier it is to sell professional services when you have a product than when you don't. And so my big question after having worked for one of those companies was, how do you know when professional services is a good go-to-market strategy for a SaaS product? Like, what is it, a certain type of SaaS product that it works? Is it a certain type of ICP?
Yeah, it's usually anything that's high configuration, right? So that means, you know, there's integration involved, there's a setup involved. So like, that's why I think the marketing stack really makes a lot of sense. Anything in kind of sales or MarTech. But it's still sold as the software and then the services. So for example, one of my clients, Corey at Webware, they sell essentially e-commerce platform businesses, but for $350 a month, you don't need to hire anybody else to all this stuff. So the website, the e-commerce, the product SKUs, the booking engine, all the features are there. But if you need your logo change or copy change, or you need somebody to write blog post articles, like anything that you need, Facebook ads, it's all part of that 350. So what they've done is they've got this core SaaS. It's got this, you know, like the traditional SaaS has about 89, 87% margin. Then they've got this service layer because of economies of scale and knowing the customer segments they serve, they can create repeatability in that model is kind of like an part. And they just have enough data to know that no one person is going to take advantage. So they kind of say like, hey, per quarter, we can execute one of these services. So it might be the website this quarter, Facebook ads the next quarter, blogs the third quarter, et cetera. And it's just really, it just makes it a compelling offer. Because if you think about, like, that's why I call it success as a service. If I'm a small businesses, I don't want to spend my time trying to figure out what platform I need because I don't know even how to configure it. But if you say, look, not only will you have the problem solved, which is website, e-commerce, booking engine, etc., invoicing, we'll make sure that we configure it so you don't have to like hire another person. I mean, I pay, embarrassed to say, but I use a product called Infusionsoft. I call it Confusionsoft. And I have a full-time dedicated person that I pay, 70 grand a year to manage this software, which is crazy, right? In this world of, hey, it should just be intuitive enough for people to use it. But the reality of it is, if somebody came along and said, for half the cost of the monthly subscription I pay Confusionsoft and the individual, they'll take care of the campaign build outs and stuff and give me all the same features, it's just a compelling offer.
Exactly. I mean, one of the things that I've been really impressed with seeing is like professional services as like bootstrapping R&D, where basically like you need to build out your product, but you can't sell it as a product just yet to say IBM or an enterprise. Throw people man hours at it and then test it.
It's customer financing too.
Yeah, exactly.
The customer will pay you to build. The only risk, and this is where it's super important, if you do that, you need to make sure you're selling the same package every time and not selling a really expensive feature build that nobody else wants, right? And that's what typically happens if you don't have a lot of experience is you need to sell a solution and here's how it works. If you want it, great. If you don't, that's fine. Versus 10 customers with 10 different features that neither of them want. So there's no repeatability into the stack.
True. You got a good question from Eva in the chat, which is good courses and books on growth mindset that you might want to recommend.
I could speak about this for days. Here's the deal. Growth Mindset by Carol Dweck is the Bible. She's the one that coined it. She's the expert, etc. If you said, well, let's scratch the surface a little deeper than that. I really think growth mindset and really developing that belief system comes down to identity. So the best book on identity is a book called Alter Ego by one of my best friends, Todd Herman. Okay, so The Alter Ego Effect, New York Times bestseller, Todd Herman. That's two. If you want to, because mindset's an interesting one, but if you want to talk about mental toughness, grit, confidence, and really developing that aspect of your mindset, I'm going to go with this program called 75 Hard. Okay, 75 Hard is something I'm doing right now. It was created by a guy named Andy Frisella. There's a book called 75 Hard, and the structure is it's the Iron Man for the mind. Okay, and it comes down to 75 days. Here's the format. Okay, I've got the app on my phone. You can download the app, but the format is 2 workouts a day. One of them has to be outside. No excuses. 2 45 minutes a day. Meal plan. So some kind of diet that you respect. Keto, whatever, it doesn't matter what it is, but essentially you got to follow a diet. You have to take a progress pic every day. You have to drink 4 liters of water or a gallon of water, 3.7 liters of water. That's the hardest part. I literally chug these a day. And no cheat meals, no alcohol for 75 days. No days off. Okay, I'm on day 45. And it's interesting, just like building habits, building structure, honoring your commitment, and 0.1% of the people actually finish. It's not to boast. I will 100% finish because that's just the kind of guy I am. But if you work the toughness side of the mindset, I can't recommend that 75 Hard, anymore. It's literally something I'll be doing every year for the rest of my life because it's just so valuable as kind of like a cleanse. It's almost like a cleanse for the mind and an Ironman at the same time.
You've got me looking at the book on Audible and wondering whether I'm about to go into
It's one of those questions, man. Do I want to go down that? But it's like if somebody wants a jolt, I kind of think of it, it's like if you're just like, fuck it, I want to see what the next level of what's possible for me. Like I'm already a high performer, but I'm like, what's the next gear? And that's what I do for my clients. It's what is the next gear? What is the next level? And it doesn't matter of like if it's physical transformation or mental transformation, the mind is the one most fascinating ones.
We got time for one last question, and Odo had one in the comments, which is a really good one. We hear a lot about data as the new oil, implying that data or the insight that can be extracted from it is incredibly valuable. But here's a big challenge. How do you get sample data? So, you know, everyone wants to build the next Palantir, but what do you do if you don't have the raw data? And I was wondering if you or any of your clients had experience on that.
Yeah, I mean, the cool part is at scale, you start to produce that. So the IoT one is an example. But if you don't have it getting access to it, it's probably going to be difficult because, as you know, I mentioned, it is oil. And if I've got it, I know how valuable it is. One of my friends, I forget the name of it, but he's building a marketplace for data to solve that specific problem. And what's cool is that kind of like back in the day, there was like this business card network where you could put business cards in a contact you had, and they would give you credits so that you could go get business contact info. It's kind of the same idea. I've got valuable data. I contribute to the marketplace. I can monetize it, anonymize, and then I can also get credits to leverage. So I have a friend that does that. And then one of my clients, they do alternative data sets for investing. This is the most fascinating one for me. You know, all these investors, these hedge funds, the amount of data out there, for example, satellite imagery looking at parking lot utilization to help investors make decisions on retailers. I mean, or looking at oil reserve levels and like looking at containers on how empty these oil reserves are for people to make bets, directionally speaking, on price of oil. I mean, that's the level of data that exists that all the hedge funds know about through these alternative data set marketplace companies. So yeah, if you don't have the data, I don't know how to tell you to convince somebody to give it to you. But if you are building something that can at least collect it, save it, because somebody will find it valuable down the road.
Dan, well, I see we're coming up on time. Odo, your answer. I feel like that's the bar. So
appreciate it.
Personally, I want to say for someone for whom it's 8 o'clock at night, and I know it's what, noon for you, 1 maybe?
I'm actually 4 p.m. I'm Atlantic Standard.
Oh, you're Atlantic. Still, thank you for bringing the energy. Like, definitely needed it.
That's how I show up any minute every day. So I appreciate the recognition, Liam. You've got a killer lineup today. I'm really excited for everybody. Appreciate again the opportunity. And if I can help anybody, you guys know where to find me online.
Awesome, man.